call the October 10th meeting of the Affordable Housing Trust to order. I don't need a roll call or anything like that because we're all here, right?
Yeah, no, we don't have a Zoom, so.
I never remember how these things go. Okay, first up on the agenda tonight, I just wanted to talk real quick about the MBTA housing law litigation update. There is, if people don't know, a kind of important lawsuit going on between the Attorney General's office and the town of Milton, who is balking at complying with the MBTA zoning act. And part of their objection is, well, we don't really have the MBTA there, we have a trolley. So you're sort of shoehorning us into this. And I found the coverage in the Boston Globe to not be very good, because a lot of the times, the reporters don't really aren't able to suss out what the issues are. But the coverage in Massachusetts Lawyers Weekly was excellent. Unfortunately, Massachusetts Lawyers Weekly subscriptions are like hundreds of dollars a year, but I have one, so I just wanted to make people aware of what the issues were. And one of them really is about whether or not, or what happens if a community decides, no, we're not gonna comply with this. Does the Attorney General's office have the ability to enforce the law? Or did the legislature write the law in such a way that the only remedies for violations are within the statute itself? And it's a really interesting legal question because it sort of goes to, what is the extent of the power of the state? And what the legislature did, if you probably recall, is it said, well, if you're not gonna comply with this act, you lose grants. And okay, fine, Milton's had one grant since 2012 for $1 million. So the Attorney General's office says, well, this is a paper tiger. We as the Attorney General is charged with enforcing the laws of the state. So we're gonna sue you, town of Milton, we're gonna take you to court. And the town of Milton's lawyers said, no, the legislature knew what they were doing when they wrote the statute, and the only thing they get to enforce is the grant money, and without that, that's it. The Attorney General's office has no power to enforce the law. So that's it. The SGC heard arguments on that on, I think it was Tuesday?
October 7th.
Yeah, and now, they usually take about anywhere between 2 weeks and 6 months to write a decision. So it'll be interesting. I watched a little bit of it online. The SGC arguments are broadcast on, I think it's their YouTube channel. And it was really, really, both sides did a great job. The Milton's attorneys from Goodwin Proctor, they're not slouches over there. And the Attorney General did a really good job as well.
Probably lives in the town.
What's that?
They probably live in the town.
Yeah, well, probably right. So it was really interesting, and we'll see what the SJC says. So it's, just so people know what the issues are, it really sort of comes down to whether or not the AG can enforce the law. If the SJC says no, there's nothing keeping the legislature then from going back and revamping the law, saying, oh yeah, this is, nothing in the statute shall be construed to provide the sole and total remedy for violations of the statute, and that would give, I think, the AG's office the authority to enforce. So keep your fingers crossed. I mean, I'm obviously pulling for the construction of new units. I mean, if people don't understand too, the MBTA zoning act doesn't require the construction of these units. I think people think it does. It just changes the zoning.
And Grafton's already done that.
Yeah, we've already done that.
We're not
Yeah.
like Milton. We're
Right.
not fighting this. We
They're
just
pretty
did
close
it.
to Mattapan, so I mean, the red line's right there.
It's right there. That's right there. So at any rate, that's where that's at. Hopefully, there's a positive outcome there within the next few months. Okay, next up on the agenda is updates on 14 Snow Road Lip.
So I asked for this to be on the agenda because I attended the ZBA meeting, the first one they just had for Snow Road. And there was just a lot of input online, and I just felt like the Affordable Housing Trust, if we all agree with it, sending a letter of support for the project, because it does have a 25% affordability component, just to show some positive support if we support the project. So
Yeah.
I wanted to bring that forward and have that conversation.
I admit to not having a lot of, I haven't watched that meeting, so I don't know what stage is the planning at that they presented? Drawings, where are they at with this?
So it went through the LIP process with the select board.
Yeah.
It started at 300 units. I think it's down to 268. As part of the LIP, they negotiated some of the buildings would only be 3 stories instead of 4, but not all. There will be some 4 stories. They negotiated the sidewalks. They negotiated I think the right turn only lane coming out of Snow Road.
Yeah,
They
that's
couldn't
needed.
do a light.
Yeah.
There was an issue with putting a light there.
It
Is there
could use
anything
a
else?
light.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a $300,000 financial contribution as well in that
Okay.
agreement. Yeah, that's from what I'm recalling, I think that's the bulk of it, yes.
Yeah. So what is it, 34 affordable units, 31, 34, something like that?
Yeah, I'm not, well, it might,
Or am I confusing that with 1727? Is that 31?
The 31 is 1727.
So I might be confusing that one.
yeah.
Um,
I'm not, you know what, I'm not even 100% sure, I haven't had the chance to, listen to that recording, but I know that the CBA did declare safe harbor. I know the next meeting is gonna be on the 14th. They have gotten a hydrologist to review, in light of some of the concerns raised, with the development being near, the wellhead areas. I've got final counts on the, affordables. And, but I think in terms of, you know, the applicant, understands that safe harbor's been declared and they're happy with proceeding, knowing that the project will probably be cut back in scale and density, et cetera. And the board is still proceeding, so the project could significantly change.
Right.
Now that safe harbor's been declared and they can't appeal it, so we'll see. So for the 14th is the next meeting. I don't know, I know that they'll be having that peer reviewer in, and I'm not sure what other talking points are gonna be on that agenda just yet, but I'll check with, Katrina.
So I mean, this process goes on for a long time, so not like anything's gonna be decided on the 14th. So if we wanna take time to consider it, or if we wanna wait to declare support for this project, if we declare support at all, that's the conversation I wanted to have.
Sure. Any other thoughts?
I think it's our duty to, if we feel comfortable with it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
support it.
I mean, my only thing is, you know, this developer obviously has a history. And I don't know what the final project's gonna end up looking like. I think conceptually, though, I think we could say conceptually, you know, given the state of housing, not only in Grafton, but in greater Worcester County, which is one of the most competitive rental markets in the entire country, that these units are needed. And I don't think you can say that enough, because I don't think people quite get it.
Which is why I think a letter of support,
Yeah.
like you said, like a boilerplate one, not that this is the best project we've ever seen ever,
Right.
Yeah.
but we support affordable housing production, and this is gonna bring that to Grafton.
Someday, I wanna have so many projects that we can rank up, which project was the best project you've ever seen ever? And we could
That's
have a nice
right.
discussion about all the great projects that have come through town. Yeah, do you wanna take a stab at writing?
Yeah.
That's what you get for putting it on the agenda.
Yeah. I don't know, sure.
Okay.
And then you can edit it.
Sure. Well, I'll take it, we'll sit here and critique your work.
Awesome. No, I love that.
That's
That's
always
my favorite. Yep.
Do you have any past examples? Like, have we done this before? Written a letter in
Well,
support?
so other like boards and committees, you know, conservation or whatever, for their own,
Sure,
you know, lens. So nothing, it doesn't have to be this long, drawn-out thing.
okay.
And I think those become part of the record, right?
It does, and that's what I was thinking, because there's so many people opposing the project right now, just a little voice of support, because it's important to have a little balance, and we're not gonna be able to, and we're not trying to outweigh any of the people who have opposing point of views or different, but to just share that there is support out there.
One woman, who used to email me all the time when I was on the select board, reached out to me about it last week or 2 weeks ago, and the subject line for her email was insanity. And so she said, "Where are you on Snow Road?" And I
Just probably the sign and then the
right.
grass.
And I
that
said,
says,
"Well,
"Ask
listen,
me
you
about the
know,
project," yeah.
I always start at the place where we're in a housing crisis. We need these units, and people are hurting." And that was the last I heard from her. We had no further discussion after that. So.
Kind of a prime location, there's a grocery store right there, the train's pretty close,
Right.
it's like,
Right.
it's tough
That's
to
hard.
argue.
Right. Stop and Shop could certainly use the business.
Yeah,
Okay, so, yeah, we'll look forward to that at the November before the.
could use a light
So
though.
when are
Yes.
we meeting in November?
Oh, that's a good question. Was there? Was it second
Should
Thursday?
have asked Amber that before this.
Oh,
Second Thursday,
what did iOS do to my, this is gross.
So November 7th, CPC's having other CPC
14th.
communities come in and they're hosting a big thing, so I'd prefer not to meet that
Yeah,
night. And
So,
then,
14th would
I think
be-
we're the 14th anyway.
but ZBA's meeting that night, so if we wanted to attend that, that would be
Okay.
On ZBA's meeting for that on,
the 14th.
what are they taking up on the 14th, snow?
Yeah,
Okay. At 7? I don't know if they'll get to it right away, so what we could do is we could just meet at 6:30 on the 14th if we wanted to.
or
Get
hear,
through our agenda and then go downstairs.
or hear me out, meet on the 13th, so if we vote on something, we can send it to them and it can be part of their record to consider on
Oh,
the
I see
14th.
what you're saying.
Yeah,
I see what you're saying. Okay, we could do that, if there's.
does that work for everybody, the 13th? That's a Wednesday, so,
Yeah.
okay.
I would need to do Zoom if we're doing a Wednesday.
We should check, conference room A availability.
ZBA will be in there.
No,
Oh, wait,
no,
on the 13th,
On the
okay, yeah.
13th, That way we'd have the Zoom capability. I don't think we have it up here.
GCTV Studio has amazing Zoom capabilities, and they,
Oh, we always do it there.
it's very convenient meeting in there.
Oh, okay,
Oh, okay.
So I've done a number of meetings in
all
there.
right.
Same time, 7?
Yeah, 7 PM,
I'll reserve that space.
awesome.
Okay.
All right, updates on 1727 Upton Street. Looks like the, I don't know if everybody saw this at the last, planning board meeting, but, the, decision was voted on and passed by a vote of 4-1. So that's good. On to the next step. I think we were talking earlier offline. There's a meeting coming up with them?
Yes, so they are, their next step will be to have a pre-construction meeting with town staff. That date is to be determined, but, sorry, Matt, but they are planning on, they've relayed to me that they are going to be moving pretty quickly in terms of pulling building permits and, taking the next steps, starting to, they obviously are still in the appeal period, but once they do that and record the decision at the registry, they're good to go.
How long is the appeal period?
20 days.
Okay, the decision was last week?
It was approved on the 27th, so,
Okay.
oh.
So there's probably just about another week or so left for the appeal period.
Yeah,
Okay.
about.
Okay, good. All right, knock on wood. Input for grant agreement with Community Preservation Committee. Colleen, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so I guess not having Kathleen here kind of keeps us in the same spot as the last meeting. Unless, did people review the grant agreement? Do they have opinions or input they want to share?
I reviewed it, I don't have any input, but I actually probably would like to hear from Kathleen about it.
Yeah, I have some input. You know, I want the grant agreement to be between CPC and Affordable Housing Trust, not, the select board. That's some of the boilerplate language in there. I want this to be a one-time grant agreement, not project-specific. And I was at the last CPC meeting, we discussed that as well. We want it to be a one-time grant agreement. The treasurer wanted language in there about having, to make sure we keep the our records separate, or the money and everything. That's already in there.
Yep.
So that was, the other thing I had a question about is that we can use 10% to help pay for, you know, admin like Amber. Is that high enough to cover our costs if we need that? Can we go higher legally if we wanted to? Like, would 15% make sense? I don't know. Avoid any language that talks about deadlines. And then when we talk about the record keeping on section 10 there, I want to reference the MGL specifically, the chapter 218 Acts of 2016, Act of Modernization Municipal Finance, so that if that ever changes, that's cited.
We're tied to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to, you know, the town's interpretation of anything. We're tied to what it is. So those are some of my input, and maybe Kathleen's already all over that, and, you know, I don't know.
Nobody, otherwise it looks good. I think it's best practices, so.
Yeah, for sure.
That's excellent. All right. Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we, have a quick discussion with her on the 13th? Hopefully she's available. And then vote on it at that point, or vote to move forward.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it's not a super rush,
Yeah.
like, we haven't had it for all this time, so we just wanna get a really good one.
Yeah.
And then, bring it to CPC for them to
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good. So on here I have goals discussion. But let me ask you this. Does it make sense to do a workshop on this? Because we're coming to a place where, you know, we're giving GSX most of the money that we have. And we're still waiting on 25 Worcester Street really to get rolling. So we're gonna be left, you know, sort of back where we were, I think, 10 years ago before the Pulte money came in, looking at, you know, ways to make a dent and a helpful difference in people's lives, but with like sort of a smaller kitty that we're working with. And that is probably gonna take some serious thought about, you know, what we want to accomplish over the course of the next 24 months, right? After, you know, they put a shovel in the ground at 17 Upton, and while we're waiting for 25 Worcester Street. So we can have a discussion now if people have thoughts or ideas, or we can maybe talk about doing a separate workshop sometime in November, December, understanding that, you know, the holidays are coming up and people are gonna start getting really busy. So I don't know if anybody has any thoughts. No thoughts?
What's the difference between a meeting like this and a workshop? What do you think?
So, I think a workshop, like, what I liked, what we did with the select board was when everybody, you just sort of come with a list of ideas. And remember like the time that I think we did one outside because it was COVID or something, I can't remember, but we had like a whiteboard and we sort of started ranking ideas that we really liked and started focusing on like 3 or 4, whittling it down from like 40. So that was sort of like, I was sort of thinking about it that way.
Okay.
I've been a part of goals discussions that went really well. I've been parts of goals discussions that went nowhere. And that was one of the better ones that I remember being a part of. Because everybody sort of brought, you know, like a few good ideas and things they really wanted to focus on. And were able to speak to, here's why I want to do this, and here's why I think it's important, and here's how I think I can be a leader on that particular issue. Right now, the best ideas that I've seen come forward are actually, Massachusetts Housing Partnership has an Affordable Housing Trust Guideline book that they created in 2018. You guys have probably, some of you have probably seen it. And there is the last section of it is a best practices list. And they have thoughts and ideas ranging everywhere from a buy-down program to developing smaller units, and you know, possibly rental assistance. And these are all things you can do now, especially the rental assistance. We didn't used to be able to do that 10 years ago, but they changed the law at CPA. So, you know, these are all things that we could just go through that list and talk about and workshop over the course of maybe an hour one night and think about, okay, these are things we want to get moving forward. So I thought that would be, to just focus on that would be probably helpful.
Yeah, just, if I may, Mr. Chair, I think that that's a good idea to really, because it is going to take, it's probably gonna take its own independent,
Right.
separate meeting.
Right.
It's got a lot to go through, because I was, also want the trust to focus on goals and strategies that are specific to the housing production plan.
That's what I was
Right,
gonna say,
right.
yeah, we already
Yeah.
kinda did this, yeah.
Yeah, right. Even though, quite honestly, we've been making great progress, in terms of the strategies in that plan, but there's definitely work we can do. So, so I just,
That's a great point too. You know, you come up with the plans and then you put them away until the next time you need to get one done.
Yeah.
And it's always good, I think, to refocus and say, okay, what was the next step on the housing production plan and how can we affect that?
Yeah, cause we got feedback from the other people in the town as well.
Right.
So,
Right.
it's not just our plans.
Yeah, I mean, so there are programs we can initiate and, you know, there are conversations about how to best affect the plan and also how, you know, what outreach should we be doing? How should we be doing it? How can we go about, you know, if one of our roles is going to be an advocate for affordable housing, how do you go about doing that? And a lot of other communities have really some great examples. There's one guy in Southborough, he's like 22 and he just got out of college and he formed this local action group that supports housing in Southborough. And the MBTA Communities Act passed in that town by like 5-10 votes. And, you know, he did an impressive job of whipping up support for that. That's another role that we could have that we've historically never had, you know, so.
Yeah.
So that'd be good food for thought for maybe a separate date. You guys want to talk about a date for that? Because we just picked the 13th for our meeting. following week, I guess it was 2 weeks from then is Thanksgiving. I don't know if having another meeting, the following week is too many meetings, if we wanna go into December. What do you guys think about that?
You want December?
So would just our December meeting just be our goals workshop instead?
Yeah, we could do that.
We could do that. I mean, the only other thing we would have to do conceivably is just,
Any
pay
bills that we may
right?
get?
Yeah. Yeah, let's just do that, we'll do that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so first, Thursday, December 12th, goals.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. All right. Town plan report.
Okay, so, mostly, the biggest thing that is exciting is we, received district approval for MBTA Communities Overlay District from the state. So we've been waiting on that for a long time and, we finally got it, so that's huge. And, I think that we might be the first community that has 3 major projects. Well, 2 major projects that are very ready to go and one, 8 Pine Street is taking its time. But yeah, we might have the first permitted MBTA Communities project.
That's very cool.
Yeah, with 5 Millennium. Or potentially 17 and 27, but, yeah, so that was great to see. Nicole and I have been talking a lot about the, housing bond bill and the, ADUs, 900 square feet or below by right in single-family zones. I wanted to, I said this offline to Ed earlier, but I looped in CMRPC to this conversation because there's a lot of planners and housing trusts and boards that want to get more information about this topic in a digestible format, so I'm trying to set up a roundtable with them. It's going to be, we nailed down the 29th, it's at 1 o'clock. There is gonna be a night option as well, but if you can come and you're free on the 29th at 1, I will circulate a Zoom link and, we can have just kind of a more, like an informal discussion with CMRPC. They've done a lot of work with communities that have well-established bylaws. And Nicole, I'll let you kind of speak to this a little bit more, but, the organization that you're a part of, the Realtors Association, we were floating the idea of having a representative come and speak. I think that would be really great, because it's a different perspective.
Yep.
So yeah, so that's, so CMRPC's roundtable event on the 29th. We'll obviously continue to meet and talk about this, as we rev up for May town meeting. That's been the strategy of a lot of planners and communities that don't have we have an accessory apartment bylaw, but we don't have like a full, ADU bylaw. So, waiting for guidance from the state, which we're hoping will come in form of like a model bylaw that's tailored to this, and then rectifying any issues that we need to in our bylaw in May. Which isn't like ideal, but, it came out way too soon to try and fix or address anything at this fall town meeting, and then we're kind of stuck in between 2 town meetings, so we're just kind of doing the best that we can. So, and we have an ADU projects page, which I've been kind of trying to really share. Been pulling stuff from Mass Municipal Lawyers Association, CMRPC, CHAPA, just anywhere that's talking about this topic. So, yeah, I think, we're just trying to be as open and transparent as possible about what's going on. Grafton has a pretty, good, track record of accessory apartments. I think we've permitted like 75 in the past, 75 in at least the past like 35 years, so that's good. So, other than that, and Nicole, I'll let you elaborate in 1 minute, but, I just wanted to circle back about 25 Worcester Street. I'm trying to reconnect with Andy. So the environmental review stuff, that's gonna take some time, but I know he mentioned at the last meeting, he's working on some financing and pre-development things before, he goes, and tries to get, the environmental assessment done. Once that starts, that's going to be, a pretty long process, but they're well-versed in that, and, you know, we're here to help. So if I can try and get a more substantive update before November 13th from him and meet with him, that's my goal. I'm just kind of waiting for them to direct me, because they have to do a lot of back-end stuff. I also connected with the building department, you know, letting them, like, kind of talking about this project in earnest, and helping, you know, connect Andy with the right people, to talk about any pre-filing things he needs to know, even though he's done this before. So other than that, and probably, you know, just a regular, you know, we're trying to, again, just always stay on top of the SHI. We are helping process the LA local action unit applications for special permit projects that have affordable housing. We did 188 Providence. Yeah, and then providing, you know, just general support wherever we can for all things housing. So yeah, so Nicole, I don't know if you wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, I reached out to Fiona just to kind of say if you need help digging into some of these things, especially the housing bond bill is so big, let me know. Through my regional Realtor Association, I'm on a government affairs committee, and we meet once a month, kind of like this. And we have a liaison through the Massachusetts Realtors Association, and so they get on and kind of tell us on a state level, you know, what's going through legislation as far as like housing goes and things like that. And they're connected to all the, you know, senators and state reps and things like that. So a couple of weeks back, we had a legislative breakfast where Kim Driscoll came and spoke about the housing bond bill. It was kind of cool. So I was just letting Fiona know, like, if we ever want to have somebody come and speak, especially like on a state level, about things like that, we could definitely, I could set that up.
Oh, that'd be great.
I reached out to EOHLC.
LC, yeah,
I wish they would shorten that.
okay.
It used to be shorter.
Because of all the back and forth with 1727 Upton Street, because I feel like it's hard to kind of say to someone like, we need this, it's the right thing to do, affordable housing is the right thing to do. So I reached out to them to see if they had any tools for advocacy on how we could explain and illustrate and articulate how in an economy, even a micro economy like Grafton, why we need affordable housing and how it benefits
Right.
the whole community. And they said, thank you so much for reaching out. This is great. Like, we're on it, but we're not going to have any like actual tools or anything for you to kind of take away until the beginning of 2025.
Okay.
So it seems like they're getting questions like that from other people, but to your point with goals, I think, you know, us being out in the community and being able to speak to that more, you know, everybody's concerned with how does this benefit me?
Right.
And that's kind of how I would like to try and approach some of this
Right.
stuff.
Yeah, I think as we've seen over the course of the past couple months with 1727 Upton, in particular with the planning board, it was almost just articulated precisely this way. These are the voices we're hearing from. These are the concerns we're hearing. And just by its very nature, you're not hearing from the beneficiaries of affordable housing, because they're out there in the universe, right?
Yep.
They don't know where the meetings are, they don't come to the meetings, even if they could. And there's really one voice that a lot of local elected officials are getting. And I guess it's the fact that there are people in this room, and even out in the community now, who are so much better informed about affordable housing than they used to be, is really, really helpful. You know, I was looking through, before the meeting started, the decision for 1727 Upton, and it lists all of the emails that the planning board got, and they're from the usual cast of characters. But it was also helpful to know, and I recognize names and people that, you know, were writing in support of this. And at the end of the day, what I got from the planning board was, well, you know, we might not like it, but we're bound by law. Several people have reminded us we're bound by law. And there were voices along the way that were really helpful and really supportive. So if those voices are watching this meeting, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Keep up the good work. But yeah, more of that stuff would be helpful. Especially, I love Kim Driscoll. So Kim used to be mayor of Salem, where I was born.
Yes.
And she had been an outspoken advocate for affordable housing in that community. And people around here talk about traffic. Oh my God, Salem. Like, by the way, avoid it in October. Like, you're not getting anywhere near it. Go take a train. But even on a good day, like, there are legitimate traffic issues there. But she, was steadfast in her determination that no, this community, like so many other communities, is getting to be out of reach of people, even of like modest income.
Yep.
And she's been a stellar advocate for affordable housing in Massachusetts. We're lucky that she's a lieutenant governor, so it's fantastic.
Have
Yeah.
you followed the housing secretariat at all, or what they've been doing?
I haven't, no.
No,
That's something we should probably look into and see if they have any resources for
good idea.
advocacy that was really
Yeah.
designed for that.
Yeah, for sure.
all right, anything else? All right, select board report?
I don't have much. The select board continues to talk about 1727. It's been difficult. Being the housing trust rep, having to, do my best to liaise, and help the select board understand how invested the trust is in this project, and also just generally how beneficial and important it is to Grafton. So we're gonna, Craig and I met with Evan and Chris Heap from our town council. With some follow-up questions from Craig.
Any new questions, or just the same questions asked differently?
What's the main concern? I watched
I'm
the
really
meeting. I watched
struggling. Look,
the meeting.
I'm a guy who
Yeah.
likes to give people the benefit of the doubt. I'm struggling. I'm really
Seems-
struggling to try to figure out. On the surface, there are lots of concerns that continue to sort of arise. But they all come back to some basic themes. One is we don't like the developer. That was a very prominent topic of discussion in the most recent meeting.
But they're okay with them developing by the train.
I don't know. Because they're not about to break ground there, and we don't
Yeah.
have neighbors who happen to live in that neighborhood coming. I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what happens, right? That's what happened here, is we had lots of boards and committees, our town administrator, the planning department. like,
Yeah.
Everybody was on board, and then it goes to be built, and, then people become interested in it, and, so that's been the last couple of months.
The other concern that it seemed like from that meeting that I watched, that he was concerned that it changed from the proposal.
Yep.
If it's helpful, I have a ton of projects that I've worked on previously that have, what it looked like from the beginning, what it ended up with at the end.
Right.
Sure.
It still could change, right? Because they're still gonna have to have some sort of charrette with the community, maybe, like, they could, I mean,
So that was one of the expressed concerns,
yeah, that's extremely common.
but it was asked and it was answered.
Yep,
The current version of the site plan conforms completely with the RFP.
Yep.
There's nothing in the provisions of the RFP that prescribes any particular change process, which could have been put in there. There's no requirement, and this was something that I asked, could we have in the RFP, put a requirement in for commercial? Because that's one of the concerns, is it has no commercial, and that's what we wanted. this was Ginny Kramer and Tim McInerney that put this together, put the RFP together. They could have, but they didn't. And that's what the select board signed off on. The zoning itself could have required commercial, but it didn't. It allowed for,
Yeah.
a variety of different, so, so, yeah, I didn't hear anything new necessarily. I heard a question, which concerned me a little bit along the lines of, so if the town was gonna have some kind of legal action, what could it be based on, and a discussion of, I'm using, the words as closely as I can. And that's why I struggle with, with giving Craig the benefit of the doubt. It's pretty clear to me that his intent is not to answer questions, but to try to figure out some angle to stop the project. There's no other way for me to interpret all of the interaction that we had. And it's really unfortunate, but it's the process. And, so, I don't know.
Is it the process? Like, what
Well,
process is this?
It is. So, there were a number of questions that were raised. The select board wanted answers to those questions. Evan made a decision that we should meet with council. He appointed a couple of members to go. I think he did the best that he could to sort of balance out the interests of the membership on the board, which I think he did a good job with. And we met with them. They answered the questions that were there. Evan sent us, both Craig and I, the questions, and so, it's all an above-board process, and it's, it is what it is. It's just,
And then you guys received that, 15, 16-page memo answering majority, if not all of the questions, correct?
it answered all of the questions that were,
So I think-
that were asked in the meeting. But, people keep digging.
A person keeps digging, it sounds like. And my question is, how is one member of a 5-member board allowing this to continue? I know multiple times when conversations like this happen, there's a quick straw poll, do we still want to continue this? And if a majority of people do, then it continues, and if they don't, it's just kind of put to bed. Is that something that is potentially coming up, or?
So it's something that I will bring up, but I just haven't had the opportunity to bring it up. I was invited to a meeting with council, and that's the last time I met with the select board. So there was an agenda item added to meet with John Grant to get questions together. There's been a number of communications that have gone back and forth on the issue. But we haven't met as a board to have that straw poll, so I think it's on our next agenda, and we'll discuss it then. I'm doing the best that I can to try to represent the trust's interests, but I also have to be, a good board member too, and follow our process and follow the lead of the chair, and
Yeah, you're in a tough spot.
I don't set the agenda. Anne Marie does as the chair. So, those are her decisions, and I respect those, and I have to as a fellow board member. So, I'm doing my best to just toe the line as much as I can, and I haven't heard any new questions. We did get one concern from a resident. But all of the questions that were asked, so Andy and Anne Marie and I met. Anne Marie had 3 specific things that she was concerned about. The land disposition agreement.
The
Yep.
3 of you guys met?
We did, yeah. Craig and Mark, I don't think were there in our last meeting where we discussed the issue. So, it was just Andy and Anne Marie and us, and me. So, Anne Marie had some questions, and Evan is working on those So it has to do with the legal entity. That's a concern that I think many of us had based on the memo that we got from council. So those are being addressed. The land disposition agreement's being addressed. So those questions are all being answered, and Evan's working on those. Look, I respect that members may have concerns, and I support them answering those questions. To me, we have enough information now so that we really should be just putting these questions together, asking Evan to go sort them out with council, with planning, with whoever needs to be included, and just report in on those from time to time with updates. I think that's sort of, I feel like that's where we're at this point. And I'd like to not be having a lot of additional meetings on this, but it's a board of 5 distinct people with different perspectives and opinions. So that's kind of where we're at.
So I had a conversation with John Grant the other day, because he had called to say, what the heck is going on? I just got an invite to go to a meeting. I said, I don't know, but I can tell you that he's got the same view of what Craig's doing as you do, which is these aren't questions that are being asked to be answered. These are questions that are being asked to pick a fight. And I'm being asked to go to a meeting with somebody who's already signed a contract with me. Well, Craig didn't sign it, but the select board did. As a purchase and sale, that's valid. GSX has, they have obligations between now and April to meet on that, and otherwise, they're moving forward with it. So, I don't think John had ever had any intention on going to a meeting. I think that Anne Marie had posted something the other day that seemed to indicate that, I was surprised that he's not coming. Well, no, I wouldn't be surprised about that. If you have questions, like I said, give them to Evan. Evan can, give them to Harrington Heap. Harrington Heap can call GSX or GSX's lawyer. That's how it ought to go. I mean, standard, when you enter into a purchase and sale agreement and suddenly the seller's like, well, hold on, I want to talk about it again. No. Yeah, you get a contract. Honor the contract. So it's sort of weird. In my opinion, nothing good will come of putting John Grant and Craig Doffney in the same room. And I think Craig knows that. That's probably what he's going for. So, but hey, it's all part of the fun of building housing.
It is. But, we're navigating through it. Everybody's,
It's a beautiful
best
project,
they can.
and the barn that they were able to keep, it's gonna be a great project when it's completed.
Yep. Well, and Matt, just thank you for doing what you do.
just as important as it's gonna be beautiful, it's what we asked to be built. That's the important thing here. Town meeting voted on an overlay district for that part of town with the intention of building something that's compliant with that zoning, and this is. So
Yeah.
this is what the town wanted.
Yep.
This is what all of the select boards up until the last 2 months wanted.
Yep.
And voted for. We had multiple town administrators, multiple planners, so I
There's been
think,
multiple steps to this process too, and I've attended probably all of them, from the original, visioning at Apple Tree Arts, to then the select board, then the planning board. It's been all the Affordable Housing Trust meetings, coming up with the grant agreement. There's been so many meetings and so many steps that it feels really far along to be having. But it's okay to have questions, but now they've
It
been
is.
answered, and it just feels off to continue.
And we're not talking about a newbie who doesn't understand the process involved and doesn't understand how town government works.
Or construction.
But
Right.
It does
new
concrete
to this project, to be fair, he got off the board in 2019, he probably didn't pay as close attention, that if we're gonna be fair. But, it does feel like asked and answered at this point,
so, you're right, Colleen. There was lots and lots of steps and lots of people involved, lots of decisions, lots of documentation. I think that, to me, that's the lesson learned here. And I think we should employ this lesson for 25 Worcester.
100%.
Right.
We should be putting those conceptual designs up, because those
Yep.
were the first things that we talked about. And somebody who looked at those might come back in 2 years and go, how did this end up here?
Right.
Looking at what was the response to the RFP.
Yeah,
And so, developers, the people all the stakeholders involved, everybody's adjusting to the conditions as they change. You know, financing conditions was a huge one, that they had to, and this is, by the way, not uncommon at all, that what's proposed has a commercial component, and then it's just not financially feasible for that to work,
Right.
based on a number of different things.
There's a lot of commercial vacancies, there's not a lot of
And that's the
residential
thing, so the
vacancies.
developer has to figure out, I've got a certain amount of affordability, which has been, in part funded by the trust, but that only gets them so far. They've gotta run this apartment complex with now 25% of affordable units. They take a hit on every single one of those every year.
Which is why you want the flexibility in something like the RFP and the zoning to consider market conditions, right? You start mandating something in the year 2018, and by the time it goes out to bid and there are plans drawn in 2021, the conditions have completely changed. I don't think anybody could have foreseen how much things would change over the course of the past 6 years. But really, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for that flexibility. So
Right,
that
and
you-
if we said in the RFP, it's, has to include a certain amount of commercial,
Yep.
we might have gotten zero
Nothing.
responses.
You would've got nothing.
I don't know,
Right.
you know, it's speculation, but,
But the
yeah.
biggest part of the RFP was that it was desired commercial, but then it
Right.
talked about affordability, that you'd be given preferential treatment for affordability. So this, you know, answered the RFP above and beyond what we were looking for. It's people are hung up on one part, unfortunately.
And actually 10% was required for affordability.
Right, but anything above it would give preferential treatment in the scoring.
Right.
Right.
Right, but I guess for the zoning, there's a requirement for affordability, not a requirement for commercial.
I see what you're saying.
Kind of just doubling down on your point.
So is there any plans for a future meeting where there's additional questions asked, or is that sort of off the
So
table?
the next meeting that is for next Tuesday, which is the agenda item is to talk and agree on questions that we would send to John,
Okay.
which I think is fine.
Yep.
And yeah, I'll make my opinion about, you know, the longevity of this continued discussion and
Right.
what's appropriate at that point, but, you know, if we're gonna put some questions together and fire them off in an email, so be it, it's
Okay.
fine. I don't wanna deny anybody answering legitimate questions that they have, and, you know, we do continue to see like a kind of dribbling of things coming in, from the public, and we should address those.
Sure.
And I support that, but, you know, in the main, the sort of big discussion about, where are we at with the RFP, the, you know, operating entities that we're dealing with and all that kind of stuff, those questions are answered at this point, so it should be tailing off, and we should be hopefully moving on to other important things that are going on in town.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope.
All right, thanks for your work, Matt, appreciate it. All right, so, speaking of this project, next on the agenda is bill schedule GSX Solutions LLC, draw request number 16, invoice 24-0500-10. This is a draw request number 16. The amount requested $68,750, and that is for half of the invoice of $137,500. And the invoice is attached as Exhibit A, and this is for architectural, looks like architectural fees. Grant Architects invoice 22-1013, and then Energy Code PM GSX Solutions $15,000. There's a narrative on the next page for the work done. And I will entertain a motion unless,
I just have a quick question.
Sure.
Did Kathleen flag this for anything? I know she reviews all of the requests and has in the past, so I just
I
wanna.
didn't see anything.
Okay.
Yep.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, so I move that the trust, I almost said board, approves draw request 16 invoice 24-0500-10 in the amount of $68,750.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, we are going to pay that bill.
So that brings us to $930,000 that we've paid
Yeah,
out
there's-
of the grant so far.
All right, that's
Close
half.
on their CDs, they're almost there.
What's that?
Hopefully they don't have to change anything.
Yeah. All right, so that's half, we're halfway there. All right, meeting minutes. For our meeting on Thursday, September 12th, 2024. It's pretty good, we're turning these around quick. Nice work. I will entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes as written.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion made and seconded, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, that
So nice
is,
to not do roll call.
it is, isn't it? It is kind of nice. This might be the first meeting I've been in since 2019 where everybody's in person, so that's kind of nice. Okay, I've got, what am I looking at here? Oh, I gotta sign this, okay. All right, is there anyone have anything else? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All right, motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we're out.